The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different species gathered around the crystalline conference table. Holographic displays showed star maps, tactical readouts, and most prominently, surveillance footage of a single human vessel drifting through contested space near the Kepler Nebula. Ambassador Zephyria of the Altarian Collective clicked her mandibles anxiously as she reviewed the intelligence reports for the third time that cycle. Her compound eyes tracked across the data streams, each one more concerning than the last. The humans had been expanding their territory at an alarming rate, and their latest expedition had ventured dangerously close to sacred Fenrir space. "The situation grows more dire by the rotation," announced High Counselor Thex, his scaled hide shifting from deep blue to warning orange. "The human vessel Endeavor has been detected within 3 parsecs of the Fenrir homeworld. Do they not understand what they risk?" The question hung in the recycled atmosphere like a death sentence. Every species in the known galaxy feared the Fenrir. These weren't ordinary predators or even typical apex species. The Fenrir were living nightmares, evolutionary perfection wrapped in midnight black fur and powered by pure predatory instinct. Standing nearly 4 meters tall on their hind legs with jaws capable of crushing starship hull plating, they were the reason entire sectors remained unexplored. Dr. Kethis, the insectoid xenobiologist from Mantis Prime, transmitted a series of alarmed pheromone bursts. "The humans cannot possibly comprehend what they face. Our scouts have observed Fenrir hunting patterns for centuries, always from extreme distances. A single pack can decimate an entire colony. Their alpha specimens have been known to track prey across multiple star systems." "Perhaps we should warn them," suggested Ambassador Ylara of the Peaceful Confederation, her crystalline form chiming softly with genuine concern. "Surely even humans, despite their aggressive tendencies, would retreat when informed of the true danger." A bitter laugh echoed from the Kreknari delegation. War Chief Gordak, scarred from a dozen campaigns, shook his massive head. "You forget, Crystal Singer, that these humans actively seek conflict. They've engaged every hostile species from here to the Outer Rim. They probably consider the Fenrir just another challenge to overcome." The truth of his words settled over the assembly like a cold, stellar wind. Humanity's reputation preceded them across the galaxy. In less than 2 standard centuries, since achieving faster-than-light travel, they had fought wars with 7 different civilizations, won most of them, and somehow managed to turn former enemies into trading partners or even allies. Their military tactics were unconventional, their diplomacy unpredictable, and their cultural practices utterly baffling. "Remember the siege of Proxima Station," Zephyria added, her voice carrying the weight of historical precedent. "When the Ravagers had us pinned down for 18 cycles, it was human intervention that broke the deadlock. They didn't use superior firepower or advanced technology. They used something they called psychological warfare and convinced the Ravagers that continued fighting was economically disadvantageous." "Or the Quantum Maze incident," chimed in another delegate. "When our best navigators were lost in that spatial anomaly for months, the humans solved it in 3 days by treating it like some kind of recreational puzzle." High Counselor Thex's coloration shifted to a deep purple of contemplation. "Yet none of these examples prepare them for the Fenrir. This isn't a matter of strategy or negotiation. The Fenrir don't communicate, don't negotiate, don't retreat. They are pure predator, refined by millions of years of evolution on the deadliest world in known space." The assembled delegates fell silent as archival footage played across the main display. Fenrir homeworld, designated Planet Nightfall, rotated slowly before them. Its surface was an endless expanse of twisted metal forests, crystalline mountains sharp enough to slice through armor, and storms that raged with electromagnetic fury. The planet's twin moons created gravitational chaos that would tear apart most spacecraft attempting to land. Observe the specimen recordings, Dr. Kethis transmitted, his antenna twitching with scientific fascination despite the grim subject matter. The display switched to grainy surveillance footage captured by automated probes, showing massive lupine shapes moving through the metallic undergrowth with impossible grace. A Fenrir alpha dominated the frame, its black fur seeming to absorb light itself. Eyes like molten silver tracked the camera's position with predatory intelligence. When it moved, every line of its body spoke of lethal efficiency. Muscles rippled beneath that dark coat like tectonic forces. Its claws, each longer than most species' primary appendages, carved grooves in solid metal as casually as stepping through snow. The largest specimens on record stand 4.7 meters at the shoulder, Kethis continued, his translation matrix barely keeping pace with his rapid clicking. Bone density 3 times standard organic baseline. Neural processing speed that exceeds most artificial intelligences. They can survive in vacuum for limited periods. Their pack coordination suggests telepathic or empathic abilities, and their hunting range extends across entire continental masses. Ambassador Yalara's crystalline form dimmed noticeably. How did such creatures evolve? What selective pressures could possibly create such perfect killers? Planet Nightfall wasn't always their world, replied the Kraknari war chief, his voice heavy with ancient knowledge. Archaeological evidence suggests it was once inhabited by the predecessors, a highly advanced civilization that vanished approximately 50,000 years ago. The Fenrir evolved in the ruins of their technology, adapting to hunt prey that could manipulate gravity, phase through solid matter, and teleport short distances. The implications hung heavy in the chamber's atmosphere. If the Fenrir had evolved specifically to hunt a species more advanced than any current galactic civilization, what chance did humans have? "We must contact the human vessel immediately," declared High Counselor Thex, his decision causing ripples of agreement throughout the assembly. Regardless of their past successes, they cannot be allowed to stumble blindly into extinction. The communication array hummed to life, reaching across the vast emptiness of space toward the human ship Endeavor. On the main screen, Captain Sarah Chen's image materialized, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her expression alert but friendly. "Greetings, Captain Chen," Thex began formally. "This is High Counselor Thex of the Galactic Council. We must speak with you regarding your current trajectory." Captain Chen's smile was genuinely warm. "High Counselor, good to hear from you. We're on a standard exploration mission through this sector. Is there something we can help you with?" The casual confidence in her voice sent worried murmurs through the assembly. Zephyria leaned forward, her compound eyes reflecting the display's light. "Captain, you must alter course immediately. Your present heading will take you into Fenrir territory." "Fenrir?" Chen's eyebrows rose with interest rather than fear. "I'm not familiar with that designation. Are they a local species?" Dr. Kethis couldn't contain himself. "Captain, the Fenrir are the most dangerous predators in known space. They're apex hunters that have killed every expedition that's encountered them. You must retreat." But something in Captain Chen's expression shifted. Where other species might have shown alarm or prudent caution, her eyes lit up with unmistakable curiosity. "Dangerous how exactly?" "We've got pretty good defensive systems, and our crew is well trained for hostile contact scenarios." "You don't understand," Gordak growled, his scarred features intense. "These aren't raiders or territorial guards. They're living weapons, evolution's perfect killers. Ships that approach their world simply disappear." Captain Chen was quiet for a moment, considering. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note that made several delegates extremely uncomfortable. "How long has it been since anyone attempted peaceful contact?" The question struck the assembly like a physical blow. Peaceful contact? With the Fenrir? "Captain," Thex said carefully, The concept of peaceful contact doesn't apply to the Fenrir. They don't have a civilization in any sense we understand. No cities, no technology, no communication beyond pack dynamics. They exist only to hunt. But they're intelligent, right? You mentioned pack coordination and problem-solving abilities. Yes, but then they can potentially be reasoned with. Chen's tone carried the kind of quiet determination that had made humans simultaneously beloved and feared across the galaxy. I appreciate the warning, High Counselor, but the Endeavor's mission parameters include making contact with new species. We're not going to turn back just because it might be dangerous. The communication channel went silent for several long moments. Finally, Ambassador Yillara spoke, her crystalline voice ringing with desperate concern. Captain, please reconsider. The Fenrir aren't just another species, they're living nightmares. Legends speak of them hunting starships through hyperspace, tracking prey across impossible distances. They don't negotiate or compromise, they only kill. Chen's response was typically human in its stubborn optimism. Ma'am, with respect, legends have a way of growing in the telling. Every species we've encountered was supposedly impossible to reason with, right up until we proved otherwise. High Counselor Thex made one final attempt. Captain Chen, I'm formally requesting that you abort your mission and retreat to safe distance. The Galactic Council cannot be responsible for what happens if you continue. Understood and noted, High Counselor. But we're going to proceed. If these Fenrir are as intelligent as you say, then there's got to be a way to communicate. Maybe they've just been waiting for someone willing to try. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. On the main display, the human vessel continued its steady course toward the most dangerous region of known space, carrying with it either the seeds of unprecedented diplomatic breakthrough or the materials for its own destruction. Fools, muttered Gordak. Brave, magnificent fools. But as the delegates began filing out of the chamber, each returning to their respective vessels and worlds, none of them could shake the nagging thought that somehow, impossibly, the humans might actually succeed where every other species had failed. After all, they were human. And humans had a disturbing tendency to make the impossible look routine. 3 days after the Council's warning, the Endeavor dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Fenrir system. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, studying the tactical displays with the same focused intensity she might bring to a chess problem. The system was even more hostile than the intelligence reports had suggested. Planet Nightfall hung before them like a dark jewel, its surface wreathed in electromagnetic storms that would scramble most sensor arrays. The twin moons traced chaotic orbits that created gravitational eddies powerful enough to crush unshielded vessels. Space debris from countless failed expeditions drifted in slowly decaying orbits, a graveyard of ambition and terror. Sensor sweep complete, Captain, reported Lieutenant Torres from the science station. I'm reading massive electromagnetic interference from the planet's core. The metal forests are acting like giant radio arrays, amplifying natural storm activity into something that borders on weaponized weather. Commander Jackson, Chen's first officer, moved to stand beside her captain's chair. His expression carried the weight of their situation. Sarah, we can still turn back. Nobody would think less of us for retreating in the face of impossible odds. Chen's smile was small but determined. James, if we turned back from every impossible situation, we'd still be stuck on Earth wondering if there was life beyond our solar system. She gestured toward the main display, where Nightfall's dark surface seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. Besides, look at this place. It's magnificent in its own terrifying way. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist and cultural specialist, looked up from her workstation with barely contained excitement. Captain, I've been analyzing the orbital debris field. Some of these ships are ancient beyond our dating methods, but others are relatively recent. The pattern suggests regular contact attempts over thousands of years. All failures, Jackson pointed out grimly. Or all misunderstandings, Vasquez countered. Think about it. Every species approaches this with the assumption that the Fenrir are monsters to be avoided or conquered. What if they're just protective? What if all these failed missions were seen as invasion attempts? Chen nodded thoughtfully. It's worth considering. What's our best approach vector for minimal gravitational stress? Lieutenant Torres worked his controls with practiced efficiency. I can thread us between the moon's gravitational fields, but we'll need to maintain constant thrust compensation. Any significant power fluctuation, and we'll be torn apart. Do it, but slowly. I want us visible to anyone watching from the surface. No stealth, no surprise approaches. We're going in openly. The Endeavor began its delicate descent through the system's gravitational maze. As they drew closer to nightfall, the planet revealed more of its deadly beauty. The metal forests weren't just metallic trees, but vast crystalline structures that had grown over millennia, creating a landscape that was equal parts natural evolution and alien architecture. I'm detecting movement, Torres reported, his voice tight with concentration. Large shapes moving through the forest canopy, confirming multiple Fenrir signatures across the primary continent. On the main screen, enhanced imaging showed glimpses of massive forms flowing through the metallic undergrowth with impossible grace. Even at this distance, their predatory elegance was unmistakable. They moved like liquid shadow, each step calculated for maximum efficiency, every gesture speaking of controlled power. They know we're here, Dr. Vasquez observed, studying the behavioral patterns. Look at their positioning. They're not random. They're forming what looks like a perimeter. Chen leaned forward in her command chair. Defensive or offensive? Hard to say. Could be either, or both. The ship's communications array suddenly crackled to life with an incoming transmission. But instead of words or standard electromagnetic signals, what emerged was something far more primal. It was a sound that spoke directly to the evolutionary hindbrain, a deep harmonic howl that seemed to carry the weight of ancient hunting calls and pack communication. Every human on the bridge felt the sound in their bones. It was hauntingly beautiful and utterly terrifying, like the song of apex predators who had never known defeat. Are they trying to communicate? Torres asked, his hands hovering uncertainly over his controls. Dr. Vasquez was already analyzing the acoustic patterns. It's sophisticated. There are harmonic layers, frequency modulations that suggest complex information transfer. This isn't just noise, it's language. Chen made a decision that would have horrified the Galactic Council. Open a channel, full spectrum. Captain, Jackson's voice carried a note of alarm. If they're trying to talk to us, we should at least try to respond. The communications array powered up, broadcasting on all frequencies toward the planet below. Chen took a breath and spoke clearly into the pickup. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Endeavor. We come in peace, seeking contact and understanding. We mean no harm to you or your world. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The harmonic howling intensified, joined by dozens of other voices across the planet's surface. But rather than the aggressive war cries the crew might have expected, the sounds carried notes of what could only be described as curiosity. They're responding to specific parts of your speech, Vasquez reported excitedly. When you said peace, there was a distinct harmonic shift. When you mentioned understanding, another change. They're parsing human language in real time. Impressive, Chen murmured. What about harm? That got the strongest reaction. Definitely recognition, possibly disappointment. Before anyone could analyze that unsettling observation further, the ship's proximity alarms began wailing. On the tactical display, multiple contacts were rising from the planet's surface. Not ships in any conventional sense, but organic forms that moved through space as easily as they did through atmosphere. Captain, we have incoming, Torres called out. 12, no, 15 contacts approaching from multiple vectors. They're not using conventional propulsion. The main screen switched to visual tracking, and the bridge crew fell silent. Rising from Nightfall's storm-wreathed surface came the Fenrir themselves, somehow surviving in the vacuum of space. Their midnight dark forms moved with the same fluid grace they displayed on the ground, apparently unaffected by the lack of atmosphere or the crushing cold of space. "How is that possible?" Jackson breathed. Dr. Vasquez was frantically checking her readings. "They must have some form of biological space adaptation, maybe internal atmosphere reserves, or metabolic processes that function in vacuum. This is unprecedented biological engineering." The Fenrir formed a loose circle around the Endeavor, but rather than attacking, they simply watched. Their silver eyes reflected the ship's hull lights, creating an almost hypnotic pattern against the void. Each creature was massive beyond anything in the galactic databases, but their posture suggested assessment rather than aggression. "They're scanning us," Torres reported. "Not with technology, but with something organic. I'm reading bioelectrical activity that's interfacing with our hull sensors somehow." Chen stood up, moving to the main view screen. One of the Fenrir had approached closer than the others, its enormous form dwarfing the Endeavor's bulk. When she looked directly at it, she could swear the creature was looking back at her specifically. "Can we establish two-way communication through the bioelectrical interface?" "Theoretically, yes. But, Captain, we have no idea what kind of mental contact we're dealing with. This could be incredibly dangerous." "Everything about this situation is dangerous, Elena. But we came here to make contact." Chen moved to the communications console. "Patch me through the bio interface. I want to try something." "Sarah, this is insane," Jackson protested. "We don't know anything about their psychology, their intentions, or what direct neural contact might do to human consciousness." Chen's expression was calm but resolute. "James, we've built our entire civilization on the principle that communication is possible between intelligent species. If we abandon that now, we abandon who we are." Dr. Vasquez reluctantly configured the bio interface, her hands shaking slightly as she made the final connections. "Ready, Captain. But I'm monitoring everything. At the first sign of neural intrusion or hostile activity, I'm cutting the link." Chen placed her hand on the interface panel and closed her eyes. For a moment, there was only silence. Then her consciousness exploded outward. She found herself somehow present in a vast network of minds, each one blazing with predatory intelligence and ancient wisdom. The Fenrir Pack consciousness was unlike anything human science had theorized. Individual thoughts flowed together like instruments in a cosmic orchestra, creating harmonies of meaning that transcended simple language. "Who hunts among stars?" came the first coherent concept, tinged with curiosity and something that might have been amusement. Small, soft thing that speaks peace. Chen tried to project her own thoughts clearly. "I am Sarah. We are humans. We seek to understand, not to hunt or harm." The response was a wave of complex emotions and memories. She saw flashes of the Fenrir's history, countless expeditions approaching their world with weapons and shields, with fear and aggression radiating from every metal hull. Species after species coming to their domain with conquest in their hearts, seeing the Fenrir as obstacles to be overcome rather than beings to be respected. "Always they come with death thoughts," the pack mind communicated. "Always they see us as prey to be taken or enemies to be destroyed." "We are different," Chen projected back, trying to convey human curiosity and genuine peaceful intention. "We see you as magnificent, powerful but not evil, protective of your home." The concept seemed to flow through the pack consciousness like ripples on a vast lake. There was surprise there, and something that might have been hope. "Show us your truth nature," came the challenge. "Not words, thoughts, but heart truth." Chen didn't hesitate. She opened her mind completely, sharing her memories of human exploration, their mistakes and triumphs, their endless curiosity about the universe and its inhabitants. She showed them Earth, with its blue oceans and green continents, its cities full of dreamers and builders. She shared the human drive to explore not for conquest, but for the simple joy of discovery. The pack mind recoiled slightly at first, overwhelmed by the alien nature of human thought patterns. But then curiosity took hold, and she felt dozens of powerful minds examining her memories with the same intensity they might bring to tracking prey. Strange pack without territory, came the assessment. Hunt for knowledge, not meat. Build instead of claim. Yes, Chen confirmed. We are explorers, not conquerors. We want to learn from you, not take from you. What happened next surprised even the pack mind. From the largest Fenrir, the Alpha, whose presence dominated the network like a gravitational force, came a concept Chen hadn't expected. Respect for courage of small hunter. The neural link sustained for several more minutes, during which Chen experienced fragments of Fenrir culture and understanding. They were indeed pack hunters, but their prey hadn't been other species for millennia. Instead, they hunted knowledge, tracking the mysteries of their metal world and the ancient ruins buried beneath its surface. When the connection finally closed, Chen found herself back on the Endeavor's bridge, tears streaming down her face from the intensity of the experience. "Captain!" Dr. Vasquez was immediately at her side. "Are you all right? Your neural activity was unlike anything I've ever recorded." Chen looked up at the main screen, where the Fenrir still maintained their protective circle around the ship, but their posture had changed. Where before there had been wariness, now there was something that looked remarkably like invitation. "They're not the monsters the galaxy thinks they are," she said softly. "They're guardians, protectors of something ancient and precious on that world below." "What do you mean?" Jackson asked. "We need to go down to the planet's surface. They want to show us something that no other species has ever been allowed to see." The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. Landing on Nightfall had been considered a death sentence by every previous expedition. "Captain," Torres said carefully, "the surface conditions are still lethal. The electromagnetic storms, the gravitational anomalies, the hostile environment." Chen smiled, her expression carrying a serenity born of certainty. "Not with guides. They're offering to escort us down personally." And on the main screen, as if responding to her words, the great Alpha Fenrir threw back its massive head and howled a song of welcome that resonated through the void, a sound that spoke of acceptance, protection, and the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic history. The descent to Nightfall's surface was unlike anything in the Endeavor's mission logs. The Fenrir escort moved alongside the ship in perfect formation, their massive forms somehow generating protective fields that deflected the worst of the electromagnetic interference. What should have been a chaotic nightmare of gravitational stress and energy storms became a carefully orchestrated dance through the planet's defenses. Captain Chen watched from the bridge as the metal forests grew larger beneath them, resolving into structures that defied easy categorization. They weren't quite organic and weren't quite technological, but something that blended both concepts into forms that spoke of intelligence far beyond current galactic understanding. "Landing zone ahead," reported Lieutenant Torres. "The Fenrir are directing us toward what looks like a clearing in the forest canopy." As they descended, the crew could see their destination more clearly. It was indeed a clearing, but one that had obviously been prepared. The metallic vegetation had been shaped into a natural landing pad, with the trees themselves forming support structures that could accommodate the Endeavor's bulk. "They built this," Dr. Vasquez observed with wonder. "They knew we were coming and prepared a landing site. The level of engineering sophistication is incredible. The ship settled gently onto the organic landing pad, the hull barely registering the contact. Outside the viewports, the Fenrir touched down with fluid grace, their forms seeming to absorb the impact of landing like living shock absorbers. Commander Jackson checked the atmospheric readings with practiced concern. Surface atmosphere is technically breathable, but the electromagnetic interference is intense. Our equipment will be marginally functional at best. The Fenrir seemed to be compensating for that, Chen noted, watching as the great beasts positioned themselves around the ship in a complex pattern. I think they're creating some kind of protective field. Dr. Vasquez confirmed this theory as her readings stabilized. Incredible. Their bioelectrical fields are somehow harmonizing with the planetary interference, creating pockets of stable electromagnetic activity. We should be able to operate normally within their perimeter. Chen stood up, straightening her uniform with the same calm precision she brought to any diplomatic mission. Assemble a small landing party, Dr. Vasquez, Commander Jackson, and Lieutenant Torres. Standard contact protocols, but leave the weapons aboard. Captain, Jackson protested automatically. Regulations written by species who never managed to make peaceful contact with the Fenrir. Chen interrupted gently. We're writing new rules now, James. The away team gathered at the cargo bay, where portable atmospheric processors and communication equipment waited alongside standard expedition gear. As they prepared to open the bay doors, Dr. Vasquez made one final check of her instruments. Bio readings are remarkable, she reported. The Fenrir aren't just individually powerful, they're collectively generating what amounts to a localized ecosystem modification. They're literally reshaping the environment around us to make it more suitable for our physiology. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure, revealing the alien landscape beyond. The metal forest stretched in all directions, its crystalline structures catching and refracting light in patterns that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. The air carried scents that were both familiar and utterly foreign, like pine forests mixed with ozone and something else that spoke directly to human emotional centers. Standing in a semicircle before the ship were 12 Fenrir, with the Great Alpha at their center. Up close, their magnificence was even more overwhelming. Each creature stood nearly 4 meters tall, their midnight fur seeming to absorb light, while their silver eyes reflected intelligence that was alien, yet somehow recognizable. The Alpha approached Captain Chen with movements that managed to be both predatory and respectful. When it was close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from its massive form, it performed what could only be described as a bow. Not submission, but acknowledgement between equals. Chen returned the bow with equal formality. Thank you for welcoming us to your world. The Alpha's response came not as sound, but as direct mental contact. The bioelectric interface still maintaining its connection from the earlier neural link. Follow pact to sacred place. See truth that others fear to know. The journey through the metal forest was a revelation. The Fenrir moved with perfect coordination, creating a protective formation around the humans while simultaneously serving as guides through the alien landscape. The path they followed wasn't random, but seemed to follow energy currents that flowed through the crystalline structures like rivers of power. These formations aren't natural, Dr. Vasquez observed, running her scanner over a particularly complex tree-like structure. They're grown, but according to some kind of design pattern, the entire forest is one massive interconnected system. A computer, Torres suggested. More like a living memory storage system, Vasquez corrected. Each structure contains crystalline matrices that could store massive amounts of information. This entire forest might be a library. The Alpha's mental voice confirmed her speculation. Memory, place of the gone ones, story trees that speak of before time. As they moved deeper into the forest, the structures grew larger and more complex. Some reached heights that disappeared into the storm-wreathed sky, while others spread horizontally in networks that connected multiple grove clearings. The overall effect was of walking through the organic architecture of a civilization that had transcended the normal boundaries between technology and biology. "Captain," Jackson said quietly, "we're approaching something significant." Ahead of them, the forest opened into a vast clearing dominated by a single structure that defied easy description. It rose from the metallic soil like a mountain, but its surface was covered in the same crystalline growth patterns as the trees. Channels of energy flowed across its surface in complex patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. "Heart place of memories," the Alpha communicated, "where the builders placed their final gift." As they approached the base of the mountain structure, sections of its surface began to shift and flow, revealing an entrance that shaped itself around their group. The Fenrir Alpha gestured for them to enter, but remained outside along with its pack. "They're not coming with us," Chen observed. "This place not for pack. This place for small, clever ones who seek understanding." The interior of the structure was unlike anything in galactic architectural records. Corridors flowed organically from chamber to chamber, each one filled with crystalline displays that activated as the humans approached. The displays showed star maps, biological schematics, and technological blueprints that represented science centuries ahead of current galactic understanding. "My God," Dr. Vasquez breathed, studying a display that showed what appeared to be faster-than-light communication networks spanning multiple galaxies. "This is what happened to the predecessors. They didn't disappear. They transcended." The central chamber was a sphere perhaps 50 meters in diameter, its walls covered in crystalline matrices that pulsed with soft light. In the center stood what could only be described as a control console, but one that seemed designed for organic interface rather than mechanical operation. Lieutenant Torres approached one of the wall displays, his scanner registering massive data flows. "Captain, these systems are still active. Whatever the predecessors built here, it's been running continuously for tens of thousands of years." "Running and learning," Chen realized, moving to the central console. "The Fenrir aren't just guardians of this place. They're partners with it. They've been feeding it information about every species that's approached this world." Dr. Vasquez's readings confirmed this theory. "The bioelectrical patterns match what we recorded from the Fenrir pack mind. This entire facility is designed to interface with their consciousness. They've been serving as organic components in a massive computer network." "But why?" Jackson asked. "What's the point of all this?" The answer came when Chen placed her hand on the central console. The crystalline matrices throughout the chamber blazed to life, and suddenly the walls were showing real-time displays of space surrounding their location. But not just local space. The displays showed the entire galaxy, with data streams indicating the positions and activities of every known civilization. "Watch place," came a new voice, not from the Fenrir but from the facility itself. The communication was in perfect galactic standard, translated by systems that had been monitoring and learning galactic languages for millennia. "You're observing us," Chen said aloud. "All of us. Every species in the galaxy. Learning, waiting, preparing for species ready for greater understanding. And the Fenrir? Partners in watching. Guardians who test worthiness of contact." The implications were staggering. The Fenrir weren't just predators protecting their territory. They were active participants in a galactic screening program, testing every species that approached to determine their readiness for contact with predecessor technology. Every expedition that disappeared, Dr. Vasquez realized, they weren't killed, they were tested and found wanting. Species who approach with weapons seek conquest, Species who approach with fear seek dominance. Both fail test of worthiness. But humans approached with curiosity, Chen said, understanding flooding through her. First species to approach seeking understanding instead of advantage. First species to offer respect instead of demand submission. The facility's displays shifted, showing detailed analyses of every human expedition on record, not just the Endeavor, but every human contact with other species throughout their brief galactic history. The predecessors had been watching humanity since their first tentative steps beyond their solar system. Species shows pattern of growth through cooperation, makes enemies into allies, seeks knowledge over territory. Commander Jackson studied the displays with growing amazement. They've been monitoring our diplomatic progress. Every peace treaty, every trade agreement, every instance of turning conflict into cooperation. Humans demonstrate readiness for greater responsibility. What kind of responsibility? Chen asked. The answer came as a massive shift in the facility's displays. Star maps expanded to show not just their galaxy, but neighboring galaxies, with data streams indicating the presence of other civilizations, other threats, and other opportunities that dwarfed anything the current galactic community had imagined. Guardianship of growing wisdom, partnership in preparing, others for expansion beyond current limits. Chen felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. This wasn't just first contact with an alien species. This was an invitation to join something vast and ancient, a network of civilizations that had transcended normal galactic boundaries. The Fenrir, she said suddenly. They were the first species invited to partnership, weren't they? Fenrir proved worthiness through protection and patience. Humans prove worthiness through understanding and courage. The facility's central display showed a new image. Humans and Fenrir working together, their combined capabilities creating something greater than either could achieve alone. Human curiosity and adaptability partnered with Fenrir strength and wisdom, guided by predecessor knowledge toward challenges that spanned multiple galaxies. Will humans accept partnership? Will humans help prepare galaxy for greater purpose? Chen looked at her team, seeing the same mixture of awe and determination in their faces. This was the moment that would define not just their mission, but humanity's place in the cosmic community. "We accept," she said simply. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Throughout the facility, crystalline matrices blazed with new patterns of light. Outside, the Fenrir pack raised their voices in a harmonic song that resonated through the metal forest and up into the storm-filled sky. And across the galaxy, monitoring stations belonging to a dozen different species registered massive energy signatures emanating from the previously silent Fenrir homeworld. The signatures carried a message that translated clearly in every known language. The partnership is renewed. The next phase begins. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were called. Communication channels buzzed with speculation and concern. What had the humans done? What ancient power had they awakened? But on Nightfall's surface, Captain Sarah Chen stood with her team among beings that had once been considered the galaxy's most fearsome predators, planning humanity's first steps into a larger universe than anyone had dared imagine. The wolf had not submitted to the human. Instead, human and wolf had recognized each other as partners worthy of trust, respect, and the shared responsibility of shepherding younger civilizations toward wisdom. And across the galaxy, the real work was about to begin.